What if I told you that someone in your life right now, at this very moment, is controlling your thoughts? Not with violence, not with threats, but with words, with glances, with subtle, almost invisible techniques that operate deep within. Your psychology. This sounds like a conspiracy theory, but it isn't. It's dark psychology, and manipulators use it every day against friends, against partners, against family members, against colleagues, maybe even against you. In this video, I'll show you 5 tricks that manipulators secretly use, not so you can manipulate others yourself, but so you can recognize when it's happening, so you can protect yourself, because the terrifying thing is these tricks don't work because you're weak. They work because you have a normal, healthy brain. A brain that manipulators are deliberately exploiting. Your brain is tricking you, and you don't even realize it. Once you know these 5 tricks, you'll never look at human interaction the same way again. Stay until the end. The 5th trick is the most dangerous of all, and also the least known. B-roll, person sitting alone. At a table, deep in thought, city sounds in the background before we begin. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever felt strange after a conversation with a certain person? Kind of confused, guilty, or like you did something wrong, even though you couldn't quite put your finger on what? If so, then you've come to the right place, because that feeling isn't random. It has a name, there's a method behind it, and there's a goal. Manipulators aren't monsters from horror movies. They're people, often charming, intelligent, amiable people. That's precisely what makes them so dangerous. Dark psychology is the study of how people use psychological tactics to control, influence, or exploit others without the victim even realizing it. And today, we're going to look behind the curtain. Together, B-roll. Heavy curtain slowly opens. Beams of light behind it. 5 tricks. 5 methods. All scientifically documented. All used daily. Let's begin. B-roll. Flickering gas flame. Dark room. Silence. The name comes from a 1938 play, Gas. Light, in which a man systematically destroys his wife's perception of reality. Among other things, he secretly dims the gas lights in the house and then tells her she's imagining it. But what exactly is gaslighting? Imagine this. You clearly remember a situation. You know what happened? You're certain. And then someone tells you that never happened, or you're imagining it, or you're being overly sensitive again. Once in a while, that's normal. Memories aren't perfect. People see things differently. But gaslighting isn't a one-off occurrence. It's a pattern, a system, a strategy. B-roll, time-lapse, clouds gather, light fades. Think about it. What happens to you when someone systematically questions your perception of reality? You begin to doubt your memory, your judgment, yourself, and that's precisely the goal. A manipulator who uses gaslighting wants to create a very specific dynamic. They want to become the only reliable source of reality in your life. Because when you no longer know what's true and what isn't, who do you turn to? That's right, to them. B-roll. 2 people, one whispering, the other looking confused. Psychologist Jennifer Freyd describes this effect as a form of cognitive dependency. Your brain searches for an anchor in reality, and the manipulator positions themselves as precisely that anchor, as the sole source of truth. The frightening thing, gaslighting has proven neurological effects. Long-term gaslighting can lead to elevated cortisol levels, the stress hormone, to actual changes in your self-perception. In other words, your brain is literally changing. How can you recognize gaslighting first? Someone consistently denies things you clearly experienced. Second, you're labeled too emotional or too sensitive when you voice a legitimate complaint. Third, past conversations are twisted so that you're suddenly the one who's wrong. And most importantly, if you regularly doubt yourself after conversations with a particular person, that's not a coincidence. That's not a flaw in you. That's gaslighting. B-roll. Mirror showing a slightly distorted reflection. What can you do? Keep a journal. Write down important conversations immediately after they happen. Not to gather evidence, but to trust your own perception of reality. Asterisk, keep a journal. Write down important conversations immediately after they happen. Not to gather evidence, but to trust your own perception of reality. Asterisk N. Your brain isn't broken. It's being manipulated. B-roll. Flood of flowers, messages on a smartphone, vibrant colors, almost too much. This trick is particularly insidious because it doesn't feel like manipulation at first. It feels like a dream. Imagine you meet someone, and within days, maybe even hours, this person bombards you with attention, compliments, gifts, messages at all hours of the day. You're the most special person I've ever met. I've never met anyone like you. I think we're meant for each other. How does that feel? For most people, wonderful, overwhelming, almost too good to be true. And that's precisely the trick. B-roll. Rose petals fall slowly. Slow motion love bombing isn't spontaneous affection. It's a calculated strategy. The manipulator floods you with positive stimulation. Dopamine, your brain's reward hormone, surges through your system. And with it, your brain creates an extremely fast, extremely intense emotional bond. You associate this person with the absolute highest feeling of connection, of appreciation, of love, and then comes the control. B-roll. Butterfly sitting in a glass container, beautiful but trapped. Once this bond is created, the manipulator begins to use it as leverage. Suddenly, criticism appears. Suddenly, attention is withdrawn. Suddenly, you have to earn what was previously given unconditionally. What if I told you that this dynamic isn't an exception but a system? Psychiatrist Dale Archer describes love bombing as a form of conditioning. The manipulator literally trains humans, like in Pavlov's classic experiments, to seek their attention and fear their displeasure. This isn't a romantic metaphor. This is behavioral psychology. B-roll. Visualization of a conditioning cycle. Reward, withdrawal, quest. Think about it. How do you recognize love bombing? First, the intensity. Real affection builds up over time. Love bombing explodes instantly. Second, the fluctuations. Real affection is relatively constant. Love bombing varies one moment. Extreme attention, then suddenly icy coldness. Third, the pressure. A manipulator using love bombing wants commitment fast, exclusivity fast, dependence fast. Why aren't you ready for a serious relationship? I've given you everything. Real love is patient. Love bombing is urgent. B-roll. Two hands, one holding tight, the other trying to gently release. What can you do? Slow down deliberately. Someone who truly values you will respect your pace. A manipulator will pressure you. B-roll. Two people talking. The roles seem to shift imperceptibly. The acronym DARVO was developed by psychologist Jennifer Freyd. It stands for Deny, Attack, Reverse Victim, and Offender. In other words, deny, attack, reverse victim. This is perhaps the most psychologically sophisticated trick on this entire list. Imagine the following scenario. You confront someone about something, they did something that hurt you, you are calm, you have a legitimate complaint, you are certain of your position, and what happens? Step 1. Denial. I never said that. That's not true. You're exaggerating. Again, step 2. Attack. Suddenly, the manipulator is no longer the problem, you are. Do you know how hurtful it is when you accuse me like that? I can't believe you're doing this to me. Step 3. Reversal of victim. At the end of the conversation, you're the one apologizing. The manipulator sits there as the victim then, though they were the instigator. B-roll. To mirror images, one person turns, the other takes their place. How is this possible? Because DARVO targets something very deep within us, our sense of guilt, our empathy, our tendency to resolve conflicts, even if it means sacrificing our own perception. What if I told you that your empathy, one of your most beautiful qualities, is also one of your greatest weaknesses when dealing with manipulators? That sounds harsh, but it's important to understand. B-roll. A heart used as a key in a lock. Manipulators who use DARVO often don't choose their targets randomly. They choose people who are conflict-averse, people who feel guilty easily, people with strong empathy and a deep desire for harmony. These qualities are beautiful in healthy relationships. In the hands of a manipulator, they become a weapon against you. Jennifer Freyd's research shows that DARVO is particularly effective in asymmetrical relationships between superiors and employees, asterisk, parents and children. In long-term partnerships where a lot is at stake, think about it. Who in your life regularly twists conflicts so that you end up being the one apologizing? Bureau. Person gazing thoughtfully out of a window. Rain on the pane. What can you do? Learn to mentally follow conversations. Note where you started and where the conversation ends. If you regularly come out of arguments as the guilty party, even though you had a legitimate complaint, that's DARVO. B-roll. Empty chair, untouched coffee cup, absolute silence. Silence can be beautiful. Silence can be healing. Silence between two people who understand each other is connection without words, but silence can also be a weapon. The silent treatment, also known as emotional deprivation, is one of the oldest and most painful manipulation techniques in existence. How does it work? After a conflict, or sometimes for no apparent reason, the manipulator withdraws completely. No replies to messages, no eye contact, no reaction, absolute silence. And what happens to you? B-roll. Person looks at their phone. No reply. Looks again. Still nothing. Nervous hands. Your brain reacts to social rejection, even silent rejection, in the same way it reacts to physical pain. This isn't a metaphor. This is neuroscience. Neuroscientists Naomi Eisenberger and Matthew Lieberman have shown in their studies that social exclusion activates the same areas in the brain as physical pain, the anterior cingulate cortex. In other words, when someone ignores you, it literally hurts. Not metaphorically, physically. And manipulators know this instinctively or consciously. B-roll. Brain visualization. Pain area lights up red. The silent treatment as a manipulation technique has a clear goal: to put you in a state of insecurity and fear. It wants you to capitulate, to apologize, to give in, to do anything to break the silence. And the insidious thing, the stronger your bond with this person, the greater the pain. So the manipulator is using your love, your connection, against you. What if I told you that many people in this state say and do things they would never normally say or do just to break the silence? Think about it. B-roll. Person writes a message, deletes it, rewrites it, sends it, waits. How do you distinguish healthy distancing from the silent treatment as manipulation? The difference lies in the communication and the goal. Someone who genuinely needs time for themselves says this: I need some time right now, but I want to talk to you afterward. The silent treatment as manipulation comes without warning. It only ends when you behave the way the manipulator wants you to, and it repeats itself over and over again in response to every situation where you don't submit. What can you do? Recognize the difference between healthy withdrawal and a tool of control, and learn to remain stable in silence without immediately surrendering. Because every time you surrender, you confer. This method works. B-roll. Beautiful sunset on the horizon, dreamy, but the foreground is blurred and empty. At the beginning that the fifth trick is the most dangerous, and I'm keeping that promise. Future faking. This technique is especially common among narcissists and people with dark triadic personality traits, and it works in a way that is both simple and devastating. What is future faking? It's the systematic making of promises about the future promises that are never meant to be kept, with the sole purpose of controlling you in the present. B-R-O. Soap bubbles shimmering in the air and then bursting in slow motion. Imagine you're in a relationship, romantic, professional, familial, that doesn't make you happy. You want to change. Maybe you even want to leave. But then the other person says, next month everything will change. Once we move, things will be better. I promise you, starting next year, I'll have more time for you. Imagine what our lives will be like in 5 years. And you believe them because you have hope, because you want that future, because you're invested in this person, and so you stay again and again. B-roll calendar pages, 4 seasons. Change. Person still waiting in the same spot. What makes future faking so psychologically effective? Our brain is a hope machine. We are neurobiologically programmed to anticipate positive future scenarios. The psychologist Daniel Gilbert calls this affective forecasting, our ability to imagine future emotional states. Manipulators activate precisely this ability. They don't sell you reality, they sell you a simulation. A simulation created by your own brain. And here's the crucial point. Dopamine, the reward hormone, isn't only released when experiencing something positive. It's released when anticipating, when expecting, when imagining. The mere thought of this promised future makes you biochemically happy, and the manipulator knows as long as they keep this idea alive, you'll stay. B-roll. Brain visualization. Dopamine release in response to a promise, not reality. What if I told you that future faking works for years, even decades in some cases? That people spend their entire lives in a situation that never changes because every time they're about to leave, they receive a new promise. Think about it. How can you spot future faking? First, don't look at the promises. Look at the behavior. What has this person actually done in the past, not what they've said? Second, notice when the promises come. Future faking almost always intensifies right when you start to distance yourself or set boundaries. It's not a gesture of love. It's a reaction to your independence. Third, look for specificity. Real plans have details, timeframes, concrete steps. Future faking is vague. Sometime soon. When the time is right, B-roll. 2 calendars. One with clear dates and steps. One blank and blurry. What can you do? Live in the now, not in the promised future. Evaluate every relationship by how it is today, not how it could be, not how it will be. As it is, a person who truly wants change doesn't show it with words. They show it with actions. B-roll, calm. Music begins. Slow images of all 5 themes. In quick succession, you've now learned 5 tricks that manipulators secretly use against you. Gaslighting, love-bombing Davo, weaponizing silence, future faking. 5 different techniques, but all with the same core. Manipulation doesn't work because you're stupid. It doesn't work because you're weak. It works because you have a brain designed for social connection. A brain that loves, hopes, trusts, feels. Your brain is tricking you. But you know what? It's actually not a bad trick. It means you're human. Bureau person steps out of a dark room into the light, calm, upright, clear-headed. And now that you know how these tricks work, you're no longer defenseless against them. Knowledge isn't a shield of steel, but it is a light in a dark room. And sometimes light is all it takes. So, are manipulators really tricking you? They're trying, but you don't have to let them.